Is that any better? Do we have audio now? Looks like we might have. Okay, let me know. Yes, right on. I had to set up another mic, I guess, on the in the studio. Sorry about that. Okay, as I was saying, that you never heard a word I said, though. Let's get going here. Seems every week there's an issue. Well, okay. What I was saying was, earlier this week I did something I don't normally do. I got into the comment section. I had a back and forth. And the reason I did, because it was a short CTV clip. And it was Danielle Smith being interviewed by Jasmine Lane. So I knew that the whack jobs would be on there. It was only about a 2-minute clip. So I made a comment and I said, okay, basically, all you liberal trolls, bring it on. I'm ready. Let's go. So it didn't take long. I got hit with 3. One only lasted for about two exchanges. And that one gave up. There was another one that went about maybe 4 until I did a cut and paste of Carney and his potential conflicts of interest, and that one bailed out. So then the other one just wouldn't give up, right? And he started on Pierre about, yeah, well, he come out telling people they should buy Bitcoin. I said, yeah, I know, that was kind of weird, eh? It was like $60,000, you know. I just checked today, it's 109,000. That's Canadian. I said, gee, that's, I don't know, is that good financial advice? Well, no reply on that. And anyways, this went on for back and forth for a while. The guy was an idiot. And finally I just said, okay, that's my final comment, I'm done. Then he gave up, he agreed. And then I seen this thing on X, and it said, if you're online and you're in the comment section and you're dealing with these liberals, this is who you're dealing with. And I said, I'm thinking, oh yeah, this one nailed it. So here's what the mentality is of these liberal commenters on there, okay? Here we go. That's what I was dealing with. So, you just gotta cut them some slack, eh? These people are messed up. Extremely messed up. And I don't know what happened, but yeah, that is really what they're like. Let's see, now this one here, Oli London posted this, and this one here, I'll bring this one up here. It says, a transgender non-binary migrant without legal right to work in the UK gets elected as a new member of the Scottish Parliament. I am a transgender Tamil immigrant. My pronouns are they, them. He will now earn $105,000 a year despite not having the right to work in the UK. So, yowza.
My name is Dr. Q Manavanan. I am a transgender Tamil immigrant. My pronouns are they, them. I am, to some in this country, everything that the hateful despise, and I'm standing here as your MSP now with care. They say... they say politics is the art of the possible. A politics of care, I'd say, expands what's possible for everyone left behind, pushed out, or never invited in. A scholar I love called Saidiya Hartman wrote that the holes that bind us are also the bonds that free. Every barrier placed before me with the Greens was the reason also that we pushed further. And this is what diversity looks like in power.
The one thing I can't figure out about that is he has a Scottish accent. If he's a new immigrant, how did he pick up the Scottish accent so fast? And I will apologize for the color. I've been fooling around with the color scheme on my software with the help of AI, and it's been sending me down all these different rabbit holes and circles and coming back around. Well, it's too much red. Okay, do this. Well, there's no blue. Okay, and now it's green. So just have to run with it for now. Gotta love that artificial intelligence. And where am I going with this? Yeah, we had that meeting. Carney, Obama, and Alex Soros. Dan Dix did a video on that. And yeah, that's why my shirt's so vibrant. I think the camera, actually I think my cam is kind of screwed up. It's getting pretty old and it's pretty cheap. I tried to go by Trump. Let's see, I use a Trump for color adjustment. This one here. Sorry, Trump. It's not your fault, it's mine. I find it outrageous if PM of Canada is not obligated to release it. Trump released his tax return, Carney buried his. So, gee, I wonder why. It's not like Carney's got something to hide, is it? So, I'd say he's got a lot to hide. Now, I'm heading into the New World Order article because that's what I think that meeting was with Obama, and apparently Alex Soros wasn't really on a one-to-one. He was in the audience or the supporters, whatever you want to call them. So, but it's still a bad sign. It was closed door, of course. Well, they usually are. No media. They did the census. They got the census out here in Canada, and I didn't even look at it. I'm not interested. Oh, you can go to jail, you know. Yeah, right. Whatever. I wouldn't doubt it if they try to use that as an excuse to try to lock up the common sense Canadians, but it is what it is. You don't have to do everything the government tells you. That's for sure. This was Satire Squad posted this on X, but where am I here? Hitting the wrong buttons again there. Not having a good night. Okay, the official record. Canada's new census is insane. Questions about your personal life. I heard that. Are you gay? Are you Indigenous? Are you depressed? Well, only for the last 11 years, I guess. Are you healthy? Do you have anxiety? they're probably going to, at the bottom line is probably going to be, are you interested in the MAID program? Says, I'm not kidding. What's this really all about? 100% back crap crazy, I would say. Like why are they, I gotta move these microphones out of the way because I'm gonna lose you if I don't. There. So, there's probably gonna be a lot of people that aren't gonna go along with that census. Probably just about as many aren't gonna go along with firearm grab. So, we got one here from Sassy Gal. I got a video I'm going to bring up here. I should get into that actually. We've lost some time on the audio. So, that meeting, they had, this is from Breitbart. I had a hard job to find this because they're saying that, no, she wasn't there. It's not true. But, yeah. Seditious Senator Slotkin travels to Canada to discuss anti-right strategy. Why would they want to discuss anti-right strategy? Why would Carney have this meeting and invite these people, like Obama, and this senator, to come up and discuss how to deal with the right, those horrible people on the right? Prospective presidential candidate Senator Alyssa Slotkin, Democrat, Michigan, is set to travel to Canada on Saturday for a summit with Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney and other center-left politicians, I'd say hard left, focused on how to battle right-wing politicians on affordability. They're desperate to get Pierre out. This is a scheme right here is what they're up to. As Carney's government deepens economic ties with China and Canada prepares to receive its first shipment of Chinese-made electric vehicles. Woohoo! We're going to be spied on some more. According to Semaphore, Senator Alyssa Slotkin and former Transportation Secretary for Pete Buttigieg, both viewed as possible Democrat White House hopefuls for 2028, good luck, will attend the event alongside Liberal politicians from Europe. Buttigieg was there too, at a gathering organized by the Center for American Progress. The report stated the summit's focus is how to battle right-wing politicians on affordability. CAP President Neera Tanden told Semaphore the meeting would examine how do we fight the authoritarian right? By being authoritarian left, I guess, eh? While arguing Democrats could learn from Carney, who moved Canada's Liberal Party to the right on some issues. I haven't seen that yet. And surged in popularity, according to the fake polls. Breitbart News reported in July 2025 that CAP had received millions of dollars in annual funding from George Soros' Open Society Foundation, so that means you can't believe a word they're saying. Separately, former President Barack Obama is visiting Toronto on Friday for a keynote speech hosted by Canada 2020, a Canadian think tank that says it promotes a more just, inclusive, and forward-thinking Canada. Sounds like Trudeau talking, doesn't it? Slotkin, who urged Democrats to F and retake the flag, also appeared in a video telling military personnel they could refuse illegal orders. She said she was concerned about the military being used against American citizens. I haven't seen that happen. But acknowledged on ABC this week that to her knowledge Trump had not issued illegal orders. So that's that. Trump accused the Democrats involved with sedition, while former CIA operations officer Brian Dean Wright said on Fox News that Slotkin knew exactly what she was putting together with her little propaganda video. That's exactly what they do. They're propaganda videos. And they learned that from looking back in history of a certain country that was very big on propaganda. That's a long article. I'll just leave it at that. Just to show you that the Democrats are here. Yay, yay. with the New World Order, we have these sustainable development goals. Carney seems to be the one that they somehow all selected to sacrifice Canada and bring in the SDGs and all the good stuff that goes along with it from the United Nations. So far, I don't think he's accomplished much. He's only been in a year, and that's a good thing that he doesn't have much accomplishments in a way, because this is kind of twisted. He's got goal number 1, no poverty. Well, how's that going? People living under tarps and tents and in the heart of the cities. And yeah, I'd say they're pretty poor. Zero hunger. Major lineups at food banks. So, no, struck out on that. Good health and well-being. Well, the medical system is in tatters, so no, it didn't do very good there so far. Quality education, no, that's a big no, because it's programming, it's not education. Gender equality, well, that's okay as long as you're not straight Caucasian especially. Clean water and sanitation, well, ask the natives, they'll tell you about that. Goal number 7, affordable and clean energy. Well, I don't think the energy is that affordable, so no, I'd say he struck out on that too. Decent work and economic growth. People are leaving the country, heading to the U.S. So no, that's a 0. Industry, innovation, and infrastructure. No, no pipelines, no industry. They're shutting down, so no, didn't do very good at that. Reduced inequalities. Now there's a wider gap now than ever between middle class and those with wealth. Middle class is pretty much gone, so lots of inequality there. Sustainable cities and communities. Well, I think the infrastructures are pretty bad. I see Montreal is just, wow, the streets are just full of potholes, major city. And I'm sure Edmonton and some of the other cities are too. Goal number 12, though, reasonable consumption and production, or responsible rather. No, I'm putting a question mark on that one. I don't think that's, there's nothing responsible out of this government. Climate action, well, that's 50-50. They're not accomplishing anything. Not that they could anyways. You can't reset the Earth's thermostat, but I'll say 0 for that. A life below water, well, we really can't see, so I'm very doubtful on that one too. Life on land, well, we're not doing that great. Peace, justice, and strong institutions. There's more protests and radicals on the streets now than ever, so that's no, struck out on that. And partnerships for the goals, well, we'll see, because these other countries seem to think that he's their guy. So, yeah, no. We had, okay, there was this video. I might get to that. This one here, though, in the Financial Post, is a little heads up. This is a just under 9 minutes of this video. If I can get it to come up on full screen. There it is. Take a listen to this. Gives you an idea what's coming.
The war in the Middle East is headed into its 2nd month. The Strait of Hormuz remains closed. I have heard you call this the biggest energy crisis of our lifetime. We have yet to see what those lag effects are going to look like as those final shipments have just reached those final destinations to unload that cargo. What might this look like?
Absolutely. This very clearly is the worst energy crisis of our lifetimes, we have lost over 11 million barrels per day of production. Inventories have fallen by over 300 million barrels. LNG, liquefied natural gas flows, are down 20% with long-standing damage, and so there's an immediate impact. The worst is yet to be felt. The last of those ships have been reaching dock. We now have reportings of actual product shortages appearing in parts of Asia. We think that we're days to a week away from that starting in Europe, and weeks to a month seeing that happen in the United States. And so much of the buffers, be it floating storage, sanctioned barrels, etc., are now being used up, and the gravity of the challenge is too big for any public policy to make up for, including SPR releases. We really do need the strait opened up, and we need it opened up now.
We are starting to see those prices at the pumps slowly climb. Airlines, including all kinds of surcharges when it comes to air travel. Where does that price point go when you take a look at Brent and WTI?
We're approaching a scenario within the next month where the world will need to lose 10 million barrels per day of demand via high oil prices. This is essentially like COVID inverted. The necessary oil price to achieve that, historically, when the oil burden on global GDP, so the amount of money being spent on energy, on oil, reaches 5.5%, that is when the economy really starts to hit the wall. That would be roughly $177 WTI. And so this is not a price that we want. It's not a price that is really great for energy stock price performance, but that is the logic. If the strait, nobody sober-minded ever thought that the strait, given just how profoundly important it is to global energy flows, ever thought it would be closed, but here we are. And so inevitably you will need demand destruction, because we're eventually reaching a point where, irrespective of price, you will not be able to fly. You will not be able to fill up your fishing boat, as being reported right now.
Let's talk about stockpiles and those limited supplies should the strait reopen, and what that might look like.
Yeah, they're essentially used up. So we had Donald Trump unsanction Iranian barrels, unsanctioned Russian barrels. At the same time, Ukraine has been massively hitting Russian oil infrastructure, both export terminals, refineries, etc. And that really speaks to the long-dated challenge of this as well. Let's just assume the strait opens up tomorrow. As we have had so much production shut in, there's a significant risk of reservoir damage, of long-standing production issues. When we look at countries like Iraq, which has shut in over 3.5 million barrels per day, there's speculation that as much as 1 million of that is potentially subjected to reservoir damage. And so there's going to be a very long-standing challenge. We'll also have to replace depleted inventories. But I would suggest floating storage has been largely fully normalized. When we look at the SPR release globally, it is at best 3 million barrels per day, more likely less than that. And so again, when we look at when flows are down 15 to 17 million barrels per day, when production is down 11 million barrels per day, it speaks to the gravity of the situation, and it's going to be getting worse by the day.
Let's bring the conversation to Canada here at home. How does Canada accelerate that new export capacity? There have been all kinds of conversations with respect to pipelines, and I'm wondering whether or not pipelines are the bottleneck that ultimately are preventing us from getting that new export out.
Yeah, our exports are essentially fully maxed out, as you point out. And so any solution is really longer term in nature. There are some short-term fixes to either expand existing capacity, to expand further by twinning pipelines, etc., adding compression. But frankly, Canada needs a new oil pipeline. The government of Canada needs to fully fund it. There's no private solution for this. It's in our very out of national necessity, because we're bottlenecked. And in a world where the demand's going to grow for decades to come, in a world where U.S. shale growth is largely over, non-OPEC production's reaching its peak, OPEC, for whatever spare capacity they do have, is now bottlenecked. And even when we know the strait will open up, the question is when. But beyond that, what value is OPEC spare capacity when the majority of it is subjected to a $30,000 drone shutting it down again in the future? And so Canadian energy, especially given the long-dated nature of our reserves in a world which is short oil, the value of that is growing by the day. It's a necessity to expedite the talk and actually see some action in the coming months to begin the process.
There is a proposed pipeline framework, an MOU between Ottawa and Alberta, and by early accounts, it seems that deadlines will not be met. Two-part question. Number one, what does that signal to you? And number two, from an investor confidence perspective, what does that say when it comes to the horizon and energy assets?
So if you were to speak with oil CEOs, they would be the first to say, we were under no timeline, we were under no deadline. It's really a talk between politicians. It's going to be the oil companies that make the decision. I think a key hindrance is pathways. This is a $24-ish billion project, which is really designed of a world in the past. This notion that the world is strictly focused on a decarbonized barrel, etc. Fast forward to today, when there is a scramble, a desperate scramble for all forms of energy, there's absolutely zero focus on that. So to inhibit the cost structure of Canadian companies with this project, I think is a very significant barrier to getting oil companies on side with the desire to grow production. So that's really the starting base. Secondly is going to be a framework that de-risks such a project enough to bring in private capital. It is challenged given the magnitude of costs, roughly $35 to $40 billion, to see that as a solution. Two, you asked about timeline. Our best estimate is a brand new pipeline would take as much as 8 years to build. And so we need a shorter term solution that's likely going to be maybe a Keystone XL 2.0 to bridge that gap in the near term. But ultimately, given the increase in global demand over decades to come, there is absolutely a business case to construct another 1 million barrel per day pipeline to the West Coast that would circumvent the United States and diversify our customer base.
Eric, I'm wondering, you have your ear to the ground, and I'm wondering what you are hearing from these oil companies. And when you take a look at what's happening with their business models, their balance sheets, their assets, and when you take a look at security of supply, what are you seeing on the ground?
I think the increase in the oil price will not result in a meaningful increase in capital spending this year. Incremental free cash flow will go towards deleveraging, likely to increase share buybacks as well. Most companies are looking out to the 2027 and 2028 strip price for oil as a signal in terms of whether there is market demand to increase production. And at the same time, investors such as myself still massively prefer share buybacks over absolute production growth. There will come a time when we need to step up, when there's a desperate call for incremental barrels. That call is just not today. And so I wouldn't anticipate oil companies to chase the political spike in the oil price with increased activity. Instead, that windfall is going to be flowing to shareholders in the form of buybacks and deleveraging.
Polls go up and down. I hate to disappoint you, but
Shut up, Doug. We don't want to hear from you, Doug. Get lost. That's how you deal with Doug. Yeah, the worst thing that could be happening is if the government got involved in building a pipeline. He said 8 years, the government gets involved, it probably would be double that. And then Carney would be out of the picture sooner than later, hopefully, and then there'd be another Liberal voted in probably, and then they'd cancel it. Maybe Trudeau 2.0. We're screwed. I keep telling people on the other side of the spectrum that we need oil, we need pipelines. They just don't want to hear it. They don't believe it. Oh, no. Well, Carney's going to get us one. He said he's going to get us one. Has Carney told the truth yet? I haven't seen it. No, it's all part of the plan. They want to shut it down. And then that Hanta they've got going now on the cruise ship that, well, they let everybody out and whatever. It's just another scam, just like the other one was. They got people already brainwashed and trained, and they'll be running around in their cars by themselves with their mask on, and there'll probably be spots on the floor in the stores and arrows in the aisles and all this and the mandatory pokes and yeah. I'm just going back into the bush, stay out of it until a little bit of sanity comes back, I think. Now I got internet there. So they're sure trying their best to get it going. Just to look back at 2020, remember these antiques that they pulled on people? Here they were in action. No audio on this one. Here comes the patient, the COVID patient. Okay, you're off camera now. You're good to go. Yeah. Well, okay, you can get up now and take that stuff off. And then they can go have a celebration. Get out, have a little dance party. This was in Israel. And here they are, all the white suits jumping around, having a grand old time. Those were the days. Don't worry, they're back. But they're trying awful hard to bring them back. They had this was another one they pulled, eh? There was a couple like this videos that showed up in the day. Guy having a smoke in the body bag, eh? Before they close it up. Guy have one more smoke. The rest are probably mannequins or something, who knows? Crisis actors. So, expect more of that. They're up to the old antiques, like I say. And Canada is, well, pretty much done now. This meme here kind of says it all. So putting illegal immigrants up in hotels has saved the hotel trade. Now let's save the airline industry by flying them back home. I think that's one heck of a good idea. Airlines are hard up now. Let's fill the planes. Oops. Go back here. So, our new Canadians, I guess if you want to call these folks that, are having a grand old time out in Surrey. Now that I'm moved out of BC, I'll never have to say I'm Surrey anymore. I used to live in Surrey. But there's stuff on here, I don't know, I might have to knock the audio out a bit because they're making threats. But look at the crowd. I remember Surrey. Knock out some of that, the threats.
To bring you the news about this Sikh event in Calgary, Alberta, but the area
Oh, it's Calgary.
is so crowded,
Wow.
access to internet
I know,
is
sorry.
literally impossible. Tens of thousands of Calgary Sikhs have gathered for their annual Nagar Kirtan parade, and this year's is no different than the others. A abundance of Khalistan flags, slogans to kill.
Here they go again.
Remembrance of insurgents, suicide bombers, and assassins, including the primary suspect of Canada's deadliest terror attack, the Air India bombings, which killed 331 people, and some free food and beverages. And of course, our CMP's recruitment tent. Now here's the news I got for you. Khalistan referendum is coming back to Alberta. But they were already here 2 years ago. Now, I've been following this referendum group called Six for Justice across continents, from Canada to US, UK, and New Zealand. What I don't understand is, when will the referendums end? Is this a real campaign or what?
And I have no idea yet.
Well, I happened to walk into Six for Justice President Avtar Panu, and I asked him, when will the referendums end? Check it out. Where is the next referendum happening?
That's in Alberta, Edmonton. That's on 18 October. So we call everybody, we expect everyone come out from the house and vote it for the independent Punjab Palestine.
But you were in Alberta 2 years ago in Calgary.
No, we have Calgary already, but we have a lot of people there. So Alberta have a referendum too. Is on 19 October. So we have 1 day before, we have a referendum also in Canada.
Okay. That's enough of that. You see, you all know how this works, right? They get their roots in one riding, and then they all move into that riding, right? Now they got a member of parliament. And then they do another riding, and so on and so on. And every ethnic group pulls the same stunt. Now we're at the point where we're not quite 50%. The Liberals are heavy in immigrant MPs. That's why, because they're bringing them in, right? That's why they're so heavy in immigrant MPs. They'll do anything to stay in power. As you can see, Trudeau did his best to take the country down. That was the beginning of the end, the Justin Trudeau years. We had some issues before, but nothing like this. I know even through Harper years, there was, I'd say, a poor choice of immigrants. But the Liberals really took advantage of this. They're buying them everything. They're paying for everything. And they're running for office. And of course, they're getting voted in. Look what just happened in Ontario with Nader Skyen Smith. The people couldn't read, write, or speak English. So he didn't get votes. So we're going down fast. The New World Order is not going to be that much fun. It's going to be the New World Disorder. And these mosques, they're not so much a place of worship as they are a place of storage for certain items. Maybe a little bit of programming. It's all programming, right? So that's how they're taking it out. This one here, Adelia Kurtz posted this. No one understands what Mark Carney is saying here. She says, so I'll translate from overlord to English. My European regime comrades, I don't care what you want. We now control you. We'll fuel your anxiety, then give you a gold star. Now I'll quote Leonard Cohen to sound cerebral. And that's pretty much the way Carney is working. And here he is on his little rant here. It's 1 minute and 20 seconds too long, as far as I'm concerned, but we'll give him the floor.
Those whose politics is to destroy, to demolish, dismantle, They're not going to change their instincts. This is, in many respects, this is their moment, right? We can't match them by being timid imitations of them. We can't answer them by pining for an old order that's not going to return. And the loss of control that people feel that feeds our age of anxiety, it can only be answered by positive action, by building that which comes next. You know, through the crack in the bell, as Leonard Cohen said, through the rupture that the light gets in. In this more uncertain world, building for all, actual building, concrete, steel, and code is the new progressive politics. And our message to Canadians right from the start has been reflecting back what we've heard. It's a more dangerous world. We have to take care of ourselves. And as Canadians, we will always take care of each other. Building a country that's not just strong, but it's good. Not just prosperous, but fair. Not just for some most of the time, but for all Canadians all of the time.
What a load of crap. He loves that most dangerous, right? That's his tagline. You know, I was just thinking while I was watching that, I'm having so much trouble with my color on this live stream. Been messing with it for quite a while, as I said earlier. Maybe I could give Carney blackface so he could look just like Trudeau. I might look into that. That would look good. Carney blackface. He lies like Trudeau. Might as well look like him. Okay. Let's see. We had Michael Kovrig was in committee on China imports, right? And the deals with China. There was, I won't do, yeah, I'll do the video. This is a clip here, Michael Kovrig talking about Carney's great deal with Xi Jinping. Where is it here? Here.
Number 31 of the Standing Committee on Science and Research.
There's a Liberal.
We are meeting today to commence our study on the implications of the Canada-China preliminary joint agreement on Canada's electric vehicle sector. I would like to make few comments for the benefit of the witnesses and the members. Please wait until I recognize you by name before speaking. For those on Zoom, at the bottom of your screen, you can select the appropriate channel for interpretation, either English, Floor, or French. A reminder that all comments should be addressed to the chair.
And there has to be more done to threatening our nation, and that's on the one hand, and then on the other hand, here we are trading with them. In terms of moral democracy, what do we have here? I don't agree with you, really. Well, we do have to have some relation. We know what has to be done, and rules have to be put in place so that this...
I just want to skip ahead to Kovrig, Michael Kovrig. Because he experienced it firsthand.
Of those practices. It's not legal in Canada, so why should we tolerate it in our supply chains? It also, incidentally, it is of course a critical factor for Canadian values and democracy and what holds this country together. But it is also a direct economic implication, because that kind of low rights economy, both through forced labor and poor labor conditions and generally bad labor rights, as well as environmental violations, in effect becomes a price advantage for Chinese producers. The forced labor is much cheaper than competing labor in Canada, so it has direct implications for Canadian workers and for the competitiveness of Canadian firms. Now, of course, it's not the only reason why Chinese producers are so cheap, but it is an important factor, and it is one that we should not accept, and we need to factor into our customs and border regulations and our legislation those risks and mitigate them, because it's a responsibility of the government to assure the Canadian consumer that goods that they buy are not supporting human rights violations.
And given the impression or position that we have globally, that we are the country where human rights are protected, where we are the flag bearers of when it comes to human rights, when it comes to giving labor their deserving wages and their rights. I think your answer definitely sends chills to the spine. And to that, I think to that nerve, Canada banned UI over data and national security risk back in the day. Given your warnings that EVs are effectively two-tone cell phones, how can the Liberal government allow justifying Chinese EVs with similar or greater collection capabilities when it comes to data?
I think that's a very significant risk that needs to be properly assessed and regulated by Transport Canada with the support of the relevant security agencies in Canada. Look, all electric vehicles, and in fact all modern cars now have that capacity for gathering information and data. The issue is whether we can assure how that data is handled, where it is held, and who is able to access it, and how access to it can be used. The same goes for the capacity to potentially remotely control electric vehicles, because let's be realistic, within a decade it's likely many of these vehicles will also be operating autonomously. And there is already evidence that, for example, some vehicles from some manufacturers can be remote controlled and used in hazardous ways. So it's a multivariate threat, potentially. And the crux of the matter is whether or not you are able to trust the government that regulates the countries that are providing those vehicles. It is not possible to have that trust with the People's Republic of China's government. And so if you're going to admit vehicles of that sort into the Canadian economy and let Canadian consumers drive them around, you are going to have careful regulation of them, and most likely you're going to have to require that any software that they are running is not Chinese software, but rather is software either from trusted domestic Canadian providers or from other trusted providers, so that so there may be technical means of mitigating that, and I think that may be what the government has in mind. But the question I always come back to, or the two questions I come back to, is it once you factor in the cost of doing that, does it still make economic sense? Do you still have a price advantage? Because if the whole point is to drive technological development in Canada and provide consumers with lower cost products, if those benefits are offset by the costs of all these security measures, what's the point?
Thank you.
So that was just a quick clip there, of course. Over 1,000 days that poor guy spent, him and Michael Spavor, kidnapped, doing hard time in a Chinese prison. What I wanted to just quickly touch on here for the last few minutes is the email from Sam Cooper. I'll just show you here what I got. The Canadian who spent over 1,000 days in Chinese prison warns Ottawa is walking into Beijing's trade trap. Michael Kovrig, former Canadian diplomat who knows what Beijing's leverage looks like from the inside, has warned Parliament that Mark Carney's Beijing trade pivot is leading Canada toward a trap it may not be able to escape. So, anyways, it says he was detained in 2018 for retaliatory measure. Kovrig based that prediction on China's use of labor conditions our workers won't tolerate and infringements of sovereignty our nation shouldn't accept. So this is Sam's writing here about Michael Kovrig's testimony at committee. His February appearance before the International Trade Committee set the strategic framework. Carney's January trip to Beijing, he acknowledged, was defensible as a restoration of diplomatic dialogue, but what troubled him was Carney's revival of a strategic partnership language favored by Beijing and agreements to reduce trade barriers and explore further trade and investment, normalizing relations without accountability, Kovrig told the committee, risks confirming to the CCP that democracies will yield to pressure. Ephemeral stability purchased through accommodation today, he said, invites more coercion tomorrow. Behind every China-built electric vehicle, he argued, is a state-directed financing model that has poured more than $300 billion Canadian dollars into subsidies, tax breaks, cheap land, and suppressed wages. The pattern that model produces, he said, follows three stages: flood, consolidate, weaponize. Stage one, Chinese firms saturate foreign markets and undercut rivals on price. Stage two, competitors exit. We're seeing that happen. And Chinese companies consolidate. In stage three, the party state converts control of supply chains, exports, and pricing power into geopolitical leverage. Canada, he warned, was at the threshold of stage one. He cited Mexico as a cautionary precedent. Batteries and EVs are the thin edge of the wedge, Kovrig testified. The 49,000 vehicles allowed in are less than 3% of the Canadian light vehicle market, but 40% of 2025 battery EV sales. In Mexico, Chinese BEVs went from a quarter of the BEV market to nearly 90% in 2 years. Mexico ran the experiment, then reversed in January with a 50% tariff. Canada should not repeat that mistake. Monday's testimony before the Industry and Technology Committee added that sovereignty dimension. Kovrig offered a live illustration after China's ambassador had pressed Canada last week to weaken its long-standing policy on Taiwan, just as the first Chinese EVs were crossing Canada's borders, already pulling Carney's strings, right? The PRC weaponizes technology, supply chains, and market access to coerce acquiescence to its geopolitical agenda. China's ambassador just demonstrated that when he pressed Canada to weaken long-standing policy on Taiwan. This is a matter that impacted Kovrig's own case, as the Bureau has reported. A high-level Canadian Security Intelligence Service assessment in June of 2019 concluded that Beijing, jolted by Canada's detention of the Huawei executive Meng Wanzhou, launched a calibrated and multifaceted pressure campaign that blended trade coercion, including curtailing canola imports with the detention of Canadians, and clandestine interference around the 2019 federal election to exert personalized political pressure on Canada's leadership. The assessment marked secret, entitled PRC Strategy and Tactics to Influence the Meng Wanzhou Proceedings. In concrete terms, CSIS assessed that the PRC curtailed canola imports as a means to coerce Ottawa to concede to China's demands with respect to the Meng extradition. So now there's 49,000 electric vehicles in the country here. And the pressure's on. China's got its foot in the door big time. I see now that they're also talking about the Arctic, access to the Arctic. Carney's happy to give that up too. So they got their foot in the door. They already own a section of the oil sands in northern Alberta. They got that back a long time ago when I was working there. So what else do they have? We don't know. Access to the gold mine up north. Oil in Alberta. So I will not be having a vehicle that anybody can control but me. I have a hard enough controlling it myself. I got a 210 F-150. I'm going to stick with it. And yeah, a little hard on fuel, but I don't drive that much. So this is where we're at. It's going to get worse by the week. I hate to sound pessimistic, but I'm definitely not optimistic. After that meeting with Obama, they're just getting their ducks in a row. That was a very strategic meeting, a closed-door meeting that just getting their plans together. Obama's still in the still working hard and behind the scenes. So, okay, folks, I guess that's it. So, happy Mother's Day. Let's we'll call it for now, and let's do it again next week. Thank you all for dropping by, joining in the chat. It's always nice to see the chat rolling through. And someday things will change. Just don't know which direction they're going to change in. So, bye for now. God bless. Hang in there. We're surrounded by a lot of idiots, but there's a lot of thinking people out there. Right on.